John Elway, whenever he traded Emmanuel Sanders, said that the locker room would understand why he was traded. There's a standard here. Something happened after the Titans game. That is going to leak at some point. Somebody's going to leak what happened after the Titans game at some point. He said something happened. They said, would you like to expand? He said, no, I'm not going to talk about it. It's like, well, that's going to come out at some point. And it wasn't obviously a big enough deal for John Lynch to say, no, I'm not going to take him. What do you think could potentially happen there? And is Emmanuel Sanders going to help out the Niners offense immensely, or is this just a good move for everybody?
Yeah, you know what? I really don't know. Obviously, the Broncos aren't very good.
Yeah.
So I know that's part of it. Emmanuel Sanders wants to win football games, and obviously when you bring in a guy like Joe Flacco, you're not really focused on the forward pass in the way that you should be. And so I think that was probably part of it as well, and maybe Emmanuel lashed out. Listen, if you're on a team and the best player in football goes down, and you know that they're not good defensively, you know that they don't necessarily possess a great running game, and you're beaten by Matt Moore, if you're a competitor, you're going to be pissed off. And so I can't necessarily speak for Emmanuel. I haven't spoken to him. Obviously, I know him well. I haven't spoken to him, so I don't know what happened. I do think as well, when a GM, when a Hall of Famer, someone who is as great in this game as John Elway says something like, the team will know why, and kind of hints towards something happening, I don't like that. Like, if you're gonna talk about what went on, talk about what went on. If you're not, say you made a business move. You know why? Because I'm one of the greatest to ever play this game. I got a gold jacket I ain't paid for. Stop asking me questions. Because you can do that. You can stay away from those things. And so you look at what he can add to the San Francisco 49ers. I think he's a much needed piece. You have Goodwin, who's outside as a speed guy. Pettis has been more inside, run after the catch. Obviously, George Kittle at tight end is the biggest receiving target on that team. Now you had a guy who's been a number one. He may be on the end stage of his career, but we've seen he could still be explosive. Had a double-digit receiving game this year already. And so a guy like that, you add him with Kyle Shanahan, he's going to find ways to scheme him open and give Jimmy G opportunities to get the ball to him. You also look at the San Francisco 49ers team. They're not winning because they're explosive in the pass game. Jimmy G's biggest hits were probably with people he's taken on dates, not necessarily people that he's thrown the ball to on the football field. And so for him, he needs something extra. If this team is going to take a step and actually contend once it gets to the playoffs, this passing game has to be better. Eventually, somebody's going to be able to block them. Not very well, probably, but somebody's going to be able to block them and score points. If you play the Packers, if you play the New Orleans Saints, if you get into those games against some of these better teams, the Minnesota Vikings, you're going to have to be able to throw the ball. And I think John Lynch, I think Kyle Shanahan understand this. And aside from slapping Vic Fangio, I guess they feel like no matter what Emmanuel Sanders did in the locker room, it's worth taking him on and having a quality receiver.
It was so interesting. It seemed petty to me from Elway whenever he said that. I mean,
it's 100% petty.
It was just a situation that you wouldn't think John Elway would do, and then you see it, you're like, oh, come on, John. You're John Elway. Like, that doesn't need to happen.
But Pat, wouldn't you also want to take the spotlight off of your quarterback decisions? Right? Like you don't want people actually diving in to what you have done at the position on the team you run, right? That you play, because aside from Peyton Manning falling into his lap, and those guys having a great defense that take them to a Super Bowl, this position for this team has been a mess, right? He's gone from quarterback to quarterback, free agent to drafted to moving up, and you get Paxton Lynch, and then you bring over Case Keenum, and you try to sign Brock Osweiler. He leaves, you bring him back. Like, all of these things have been debacles. This has been a total failure at this position for John Elway. And so if I was him, I'd be saying stuff about other things too. Oh yeah, we are terrible at quarterback. I made bad decisions, but boy, that Emmanuel Sanders cannot behave like that. Oh, well, what did he do, John? I don't want to talk about those things. The team understands. Yeah, because you don't want us to talk about Joe Flacco.